I'd like to call to order the Groveland Township regular board meeting for November 11th, 2024. And we should all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and please be seated. Okay.
Robert DePalma.
I'm here.
Janelle Keller.
Here.
Teresa Bills.
Here.
Gina Mazzarelli.
Here.
Jim is excused. Okay. All right, everybody should have received a copy of today's agenda, and I don't see any changes that are necessary. Does anybody on the board have any?
You're talking about the updated agenda.
Yeah, we're gonna change it during the meeting, before we left at the end of the day,
Okay.
right?
So I'll make a motion that we accept the agenda for November 12th, 2024 as presented.
Support?
Okay, any questions or comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, okay. And also, you should have minutes for the October 15th Township and Fire Board meetings. Do you have any questions or comments on the Township Board meeting first? Okay to me, I don't know what to do. So, need a motion to approve as submitted.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and the fire board meeting minutes also.
I'll make a motion that we accept the fire board meetings from September 9th, 2024 as presented. And, oh, it says September.
Oh, yeah.
October.
October
The other September.
10th. From October 10th.
Oh, yeah, but it does say
Wait.
September.
October 15th.
October 15th, but it does say September 9th.
It does.
So with that modification,
Yeah, with
I
that
would support
change,
it.
yes.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments from the board? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we're done with approval of the minutes. Next, gotta go on the financials, and first is the budget amendments. Janelle, do you wanna cover those?
sure, so, you're going to see first in this packet your, all of the expenses up until last Thursday. I'm going to go ahead and I suppose we'll go ahead and approve those first, and then I'll come back to the budget amendments since those are first in your packet. So
Okay.
if there's anything that you have a question on, let me know, but other than that, everything was pretty status quo for our expenses in the last month or so. We had a couple of big payments that came out, but those should also not have been a surprise. Our audit was $23,000, and then we had about $40,000 for chloride. Other than that, everything was pretty status quo, so I would motion that we approve accounts payables as presented.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Okay, any questions or comments from board? It's easy when there's just four.
Yeah. Moving right along.
Okay, if not, would you take a roll call on that, Laura?
Sure. Gina Mazzarelli.
Yes.
Robert DePalma.
Yes.
Janelle Keller.
Yes.
Teresa Bills.
Yes.
Okay, accounts payable.
So I kind of swapped those two, sorry about that. So that was accounts payables, but our budget amendments, you'll see that I did include a document with my proposed budget amendments. So we have a couple of line items here, miscellaneous, if you recall, a couple months back, we donated back in like July to, the $2,000 for the fireworks. So that is coming out of the miscellaneous budget, so right now we're showing a little bit of an overage there. Where did it go? It is on page 3 of 16. So that's the first recommended budget amendment that would be moving from contractual services, $1,000, and putting that over into miscellaneous. The second recommendation, this is just a very minor change. Our equalization ended up being about $226.53 over. So my recommendation would be to move that $226.53 again out of contractual services into equalization. You'll see the contractual services, we have quite a bit of a larger budget there, and a lot of that is because we have completed a lot of the scanning already, so there's a decent amount left. Next one here is the repairs and maintenance for the cemetery, at the very beginning of the season, we had an increase in our, maintenance costs with outdoor services.
And that's where we
It
had
wasn't a
the
lot,
extra trees and stuff.
but we
going.
hadn't accounted for it when we went through the, budgeting process. So I would recommend, we may have to make a modification again, but moving that $116.50 from contractual services into repairs and maintenance for the cemetery. I don't foresee that we'll have any more costs before April, but we can always make another adjustment if needed. So that should put us back at that
Did that cover
balance.
what it was when I had Tucker go through the last time?
I wondered if he had given you a quote. I still haven't seen anything. Have you?
No, okay, because there'll be something.
Yeah, there's a tree that's a branch that's fallen down that we will have to take care of, so it's possible we'll have to modify that. But we haven't heard anything yet. The very last thing, if you recall, we did have a slight increase in Holly Library fees. So it was $3,824 over what we had originally budgeted. So my recommendation would be move from, again, contractual services into the Holly Library Fund, which would again leave that 100% and zero overage. So total coming out of contractual services would be $5,167.03, and going into all four of those different places. So that would be my motion to make those amendments.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board? If not, Laura, would you take the roll call on it?
Robert Topama,
Yes.
Janelle Keller,
Yes?
Teresa Bills,
Yes.
Gina Mazzarelli.
Yes.
Okay, a financial report for general fire and building.
Can I throw one more thing out there, Bob?
Sure.
We had at one point, this just, I think it's best suited for this part of our agenda today, discussed, moving, and this is on that same note, if you're looking at the very bottom of the budget amendment note, we had discussed moving some of our monies that are currently in the
yes.
building fund back into the general fund. So, for example, the ordinance officer, we determined really that should be coming out of our building fund instead of general. So if we are still interested in doing that, I thought this might be a good time to mention that. If we still wanted to move those funds, they talked about maybe around like 500,000, moving it from building back into general, and then covering that ordinance officer out of the general fund as well.
We discussed that earlier, I think
If
that's an
we-
excellent idea.
If we wanted to do that, I just thought, we're in a good transition phase, right, Kevin?
You got it.
Well, and anything we can do to prepare for the upcoming budget, which we're gonna start
That's
working on
exactly,
in
it'll be in the
less
next
than 2 months,
right?
right?
So just a thought, I don't know if we wanted to do that, if we wanted to agree on it, if we wanted to toss it down the road for Kevin to handle. But I wanted to put that out there since we were here.
I
Thoughts?
think it's a good thing, you don't wanna have too much excess money in the building
Do
department.
you wanna just
Yeah.
act on it now?
Yeah, we should.
That was, my suggestion, but I don't know how
I don't have a
to.
problem with that.
If you leave it in the building department without using it for building stuff, then the state has the potential of coming back and asking, why are your building fees what they are? And ours are pretty much paced with what we see from all the other townships
Sure.
around us, so,
Well, and I know that Ken Pelka also recommended
Yeah.
that we do this.
yes.
Yeah,
So, do you wanna make that motion?
sure. I would motion that we move, 500,000 excess in building over to the general fund and also pay the ordinance officer out of the building fund instead of general fund.
Excellent. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any questions or comments from the board? If not, would you take a roll call, Laura?
Yep, Teresa Bills,
Yes.
Gina Mazzarelli.
Yes.
Robert Topama.
Yes.
Janelle Keller.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, financial report, I've looked at these, but I didn't have any questions on them. Did anybody else? You could just, if everybody's good at it, you could just file. Okay. All right, next item on the agenda then is actually the investment report. Teresa, that's yours. It's all good to me.
Yep, so the revenue sharing, came in, interestingly, the revenue sharing came in like the 30th of October, so I moved it over to the general fund, so it appears there in the general fund checking account, as opposed to the 701 checking account. And, yeah, there's really nothing else to comment on. Everything's there when you see that they're whole, like down to the penny. That's because Oakland County did give me their statements, and I could include them. Oakland County is usually the last ones to get them, and if we have it earlier in the month board meeting, I usually just give you guys the rounded to the nearest 1,000, because.
It's just because reports are crossed
Yeah.
on different days.
Exactly.
What was the revenue sharing?
I believe it was around 108,000.
Yeah, they change almost every single payment, they're
Yeah.
all over the place.
Okay.
Okay.
Interest rates are still staying pretty good, but they are just starting to go down just slightly. Just saying.
43, clear, like our secretary.
Okay.
Okay, no questions, I think we just, anybody have a question on the board on any of this? Okay, let's move on then. And we got a few presentations to take care of today. First one is Bob MacArthur. I see a lot of you.
Yes, I've seen them today too.
The floor is yours, sir.
I think you've seen way too much of it.
Ah, it's always good stuff, Bob.
I'm here asking for the money.
Cut right to the meeting.
It's the normal sponsor fee that all of the municipalities and the school system, you're obligated under resolution by you to participate in the youth assistance program. I think you joined in 1979, I believe, is when Groveland joined the youth assistance program. Our primary funding is municipalities. That's not our greatest amount of money, but it is our primary money. We get, every year we get $2,500 from Groveland. And typically out of all 4 municipalities, we do about $8,000. And which is a good chunk of money. And I don't know those of you that are familiar with what we've been doing. Some are, I know you are. But our typical expenditures for the year is a little over $20,000. So the money we get in from the municipalities is a good big part of it. And we have other grants and donations that move us ahead and able to do other programs. So the funds that we get from you are well spent. I am sure Teresa passes along different programs. Right now, I shouldn't even tell you, but we're sitting financially really well.
Uh-oh,
Yeah.
that's a curse. That's when you get the unexpected bills at home.
I know, but, and we come into some money, and with that, I thought, boy, this is gonna be great. Well, money brings problems, Now there's programs that we've always wanted to do, programs that we've held back on spending any amount of money on, and now we have the ability to step forward and do some bigger programs in the community for the kids. And so all of this just adds up to it, and we're extremely happy. Our meetings are longer now. As you all know, the money brings problems and issues, so that's a good problem. So with that, unless you got questions on it, I appreciate your donations over the year. Bob, I know you've been a huge supporter of YA. I don't know what year Holly you went into Holly. I don't know what year that occurred, but I know you come into our YA in 1979. So with that,
We're all familiar with the great job you guys do. We're just happy that it's there and provides benefit to the
and
youth
we're
in the area.
really happy to help the support that we do from the municipalities. It's been huge, and same with the school. They don't donate financially, but they donate office, phones, copier machines. They donate in-kind services that we get from the school. And it's just really worked out good. It's turned into a bigger program than I had ever envisioned when I got into this, when I retired from the fire department.
That's why you can't get out of it.
I know, now I have a real hard time doing
Karen
it.
started, I worked on it when Karen, so you just flip-flopped
Yeah,
when Karen was on it.
yeah.
So
That's
you
the
know-
ultimate honeydew list, that's what that is.
Yeah, it never ends, but, thank you, and, appreciate it if we could have those funds, sent to us. All right, thank you.
Bob.
Can I ask you a question? Will you be coming back to ask for CBDG as well?
I always am asking for CDBG, if you find it in your heart to, put up with that.
Okay.
In the last 2 years, 2022 and 2023, we have taken out of CDBG $20,000. And those of you that have been involved with CDBG, that community block grant, is the work that goes into all of that is sometimes not as pleasant as you would like to be, but it's grants, and you know what it is when you're dealing with grants, the requirements, but we've been fortunate, and I've been doing it for way too long now, so it's a whole lot easier, and it seems like I get new clerks every time I turn around that are totally unfamiliar with the community block grant money, but,
That's because they made it so darn hard for some communities like ours to get it anymore.
yeah, and
They changed it, after a census a ways back there and made it, it's just almost impossible to get, you're right, it's a huge amount of paperwork for almost nothing.
and their guidelines just seem to change.
Yes.
We've had it change midstream,
Yeah.
and the way that works is that we pay for it in advance, we submit,
And then you don't qualify.
well, we submit the money, the invoice to you, you pay us, then you send it to the county sends it back, saying, well, we're no longer doing that program. And that's happened more than once, so we have to be cautious of how we're doing it, but we,
They become increasingly difficult, unfortunately.
yeah. All right, well, thank you very much, appreciate
Thank you,
it,
Bob.
and good luck. Retirement's good.
That's what everybody tells me,
But you
we'll
gotta
find out.
stay, you gotta stay busy and work at something.
I don't think I'm gonna not be busy, that's not my issue.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, next, because this is my last meeting, it made me think about some things that I should have taken care of a long time ago. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we already approved it for him. Did we not?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought we already did.
No, there's no motion yet.
Let it roll, go
Can you
ahead,
make a
Janelle.
motion? Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
apologize. I thought we already did.
All right, I will make a motion that we, continue to provide the $2,500 sponsor fee for BGUIA.
Support.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, take a roll call, please.
Let's see here. Janelle Keller,
Yes.
Teresa Bills,
Yes.
Gina Mazzarelli,
Yes.
Robert DePalma.
Yes, we were just trying to have that degree of complexity to get those dollars back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, now back to where I was. This has made me think about some things that I think probably should have taken care of a long time ago. And one of the things I'm hoping will happen going forward is we have some really great people in this township that do stuff for a lot of people, and a lot of people have no idea what they're doing. But when you're in the supervisor's office and you talk to some of the ladies in the office or the people that come in, you start to find out who's really been doing stuff and contributing and what they're doing. So I want to present something that we're gonna call the first ever Golden Citizen Award. So Lynn, come up here.
I didn't come here for this.
That's why I didn't tell you. That's why I didn't tell you. Okay? I don't know how many people know her, but I have known Lynn, I think, 45 years. This lady is everything that you want in a teacher. She's taught both of my sons, they're both in their 50s. She never neglects to come in and ask me, how's Brad and Scott doing? And they never neglect to ask how you're doing because they have a very good respect and an appreciation for what you've done.
You did a good job raising them, buddy.
I just like
Noreen was lucky.
Okay, but the other thing is, I found out after I was here a while, when I first got in, we had an opening on the planning commission and I needed somebody, and Lynn didn't hesitate to offer to do it when I asked her. And then it gets even deeper. I know you don't like to talk about it, but I am aware of numerous things that you do in the form of scholarships, helping people do taxes, tutoring kids, and a whole litany of other things that I won't go into, but this lady has a pure heart of gold. So this is to you. Your kindness, selflessness, and compassion are greatly appreciated by the township office and many of our residents. We thank you her for all of the good she has brought to our community. You are exactly what we need.
Thank
you. Oh, no.
That is the highest compliment in India. That is the highest compliment you give somebody in India. You kiss your
I'm
fingers
sorry.
and touch their toes.
Yeah.
I've been to India.
All right. Let's do it over here.
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you. Here we go.
Thank you. You knew about this? Thank you, Mr. DePalma.
And I got one other one I need to do with somebody that I have known with and dealt with, not quite as long as with when my kids were teenagers, but pretty darn close. I don't know if people realize this, but this township's been very blessed with some people that really contribute a lot. And so this other first-time award I want to make today is for an outstanding corporate citizen. And Barry, I wonder if you would come up here, please. Sure. I have been dealing with Barry for, I'm not sure the exact date, but I know it's at least
I've been here
25 years.
35 years.
Okay.
So you were on the planning commission.
That's right. Well, that makes it back to 43 then.
Yeah.
But I don't know if people realize how much this guy does. And again, this is one of those you don't hear until you talk to some of the ladies in the office and you find out, oh, there's an elderly gentleman, he had a real problem with his driveway. Barry just took care of it for us, you know. And when somebody backed into our drop box over here in the parking lot, we needed to get it welded because a resident accidentally plowed it over. Barry sent a portable welding truck over to fix it. I think half the stuff you do for us, you never bill us for. I keep on saying send it, but I don't see very many of them. So Barry, I can tell you from me, like you, I've spent probably close to 50 years doing special deals with people, at least 40 anyway. And I'm used to doing special deals, and this man is the best guy I've ever dealt with in any corporate environment ever, because when he and I sit down, there's two guys sitting down figuring out what do we think works for everybody, because I only like deals that both people walk away from and feel that nobody got shortchanged in it and it worked. And that's the way Barry approaches it. So really all the deals we've ever done have been you and I sitting around thinking, would this work for you and would it work for us, and then putting it together. And then he calls Eric Wilson, who's been his longtime attorney, and I call Will Hassler. We tell them what we did and they figure out how to put it in writing. So I just want to say that this recognizes you as our first official recipient of the Outstanding Corporate Citizen. His loyalty, kindness, and work ethic have been a role model for what a corporate citizen should be. We thank him for always helping to move the township forward, and there is so much that would never have happened if it wasn't for this guy being such a square shooter. When he gives me his word, or I give you mine, it's done.
Yeah.
Thank you, Barry.
No bull. No. Yeah, thank you. I just want to say real quick, 25 before we were here already, but the gravel pit, when everybody bid on it.
And all tried to screw us.
Every one of them, and I told them, give me a chance and I'll not that it's developed yet, but it's heading that way.
Yeah.
I mean, we worked on the off-road park for 8 years, and
The park's going to be a great success, I believe, for everybody, and especially for the township. I think everybody's going to love when it gets done. It's going to give us the tax base we've never had. And you're right, this all started because originally the gravel pit was leased. It wasn't that anybody previous did something wrong. It was just kind of completely out of their wheelhouse. And like you, I said, I'm used to doing a lot of big deals for millions of bucks, and they don't just get done. Cut a cookie cutter. And when I looked at what we were getting, I'm just telling you, the township was getting screwed, blued, and tattooed. That's just plain the way it was, okay?
And Barry said, let me bid on it, and we had 3 other bids, and out of the 3 of them, this is the only one that actually looked like a good response. The other 2 were just 2 other guys trying to shortchange us the same way, so everything's couldn't have been better. From that grew all the other stuff that we've done, and I really appreciate what you've done.
Thank
It
you.
would have never happened without you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We gotta go over there and break the
Okay.
camera again. Good play.
Thank you. Thanks again. Thank you.
And thank you from the cemetery board, you do so much for us at the cemetery, thank you, thank you, thank you.
I'm sure if we could, we'd find 15 other things he's done that I haven't even heard about yet. Okay, next item. There's nothing on public hearings. There's nothing on unfinished business. We'll move right to new business. And on that, you should have a copy of the no-has information. This is really informational for you at this time. Originally, we were hopeful that this year's collection, because they thought it was going pretty good, be enough to tip the aggregate of all the townships in no-has to the 10 million pounds of nasty stuff that we've chucked out of the environment and gotten rid of the right way. But it's actually standing at 9,678,601 pounds cumulatively. They do roughly around 350,000 pounds a year now. So we're anticipating a couple of new communities came in for next year. It will probably cross the 10 million for next year. So we were a founding member in that project, if you remember when we first put it together. We've been in it from the very beginning. The biggest thing I noticed after we got in it, we stopped getting calls at the township office that said, hey, I don't know what it is, but there's 5 pails of something at the corner of such and such, and we don't know what it is. And then you have to figure out, how do you get rid of that nasty stuff, right? This puts it in the right place. And if you're wondering, even though we charge almost all the townships charge a small fee for it, and it's to barely offset it, because the average cost now, this goes up every year. It's about $100 and something bucks right now per car that goes through there, because the haulers on it have raised the fees on it. But you can look at this and see how well the program's gone. It seems to run pretty darn smooth. This county's staying in it, and if they didn't, I think we would never have the program. I don't think we'd have a chance of making it work by ourselves. The only question you need to do today is, because they're gonna get a contract, I think it said by December to us, right? They usually do it at the end of the year. They'd like a quick turnaround on it. You're gonna need to do 2 things. You're gonna have to designate who signs the contract, and Kevin, that would be you, okay? And then you have to decide, does the township want to, excuse me, charge something for the residents to drop off the stuff to offset it a little bit? The majority of the townships are charging $15 per vehicle. That's what we did last year. I would recommend we do that same thing. It's a pittance compared to the 100 and some we actually pay to get it handled, but it does keep the stuff out of the environment and helps us. And you need to decide the fee you want to charge and who signs the contract, and then they need a copy of the board minutes that actually approve that when they send the contract in December. So this happens every year. It does go up a little bit every year, but it's good stuff, and the alternative is very bad way to get rid of the stuff.
And they are looking at potentially styrofoam, paper, plastic, metal.
Yeah, they look at some different stuff. It actually gets done.
Hoping to add to it.
Yeah, all the members in it have 1 or 2 meetings a year. You'll get noticed when they do, and usually it's at the county. Whitney Callio is the gal that runs this program. She does an outstanding job on it. And it'll be the group that'll decide any changes they make to the process itself. We just have to say, do we want to be in it? We've been in it every year since we started the thing. We're one of the founding members. And how much do you want to charge? Most charge 15, but some communities are charging $30. But I think this works well. 15, that's not enough to stop anybody, and it does keep the environment clean. So my recommendation would be that we make a motion to approve Kevin Scramlin to sign the contract when it comes in December, which will be here, and that we keep the fee at $15 per user out of Groveland Township, and that we join the arrangement again this year. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? If not, could you take a roll call, Laura, because there's a fee that we pay to the county for this cost.
Yeah, I sure can. Gina Mazzarelli,
Yes.
Robert DePalma,
Yes,
Janelle Keller,
Yes.
Teresa Bills.
Yes.
thank you, everybody.
If we have a preference for the witness. For what? The witness.
Oh, is that on there too?
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably you, because you keep the contract.
So just, so you know, I took all this, to the very last, to the last days, right, to the last pickup day. Well, actually, we used my husband's truck. It was jam-packed.
You took all the electronics, we had some.
The batteries that all the residents bring in here and then drop off and, bunch of the
The
light
one at the
bulbs.
county is always the biggest one.
Yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
showed too on that report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, busy.
It was busy, but it was fast, like, they got you through no problem. So I believe that our residents are accustomed to being able to drop off their batteries here, and I think it's a great program, so.
And we're not anywhere near big enough to ever host it.
No, we're not.
And it takes up a lot of parking lot
I
space.
think Brandon's going back in it this year too.
Yeah, they said Brandon and Leonard, which Brandon was every other year, so they weren't totally gone, but they were.
You know, the problem, if you do it every other year, people don't remember, did I do it
Well,
next
did
year or
you
not? And then they
have-
miss
yeah.
it, and then
Well, you
stuff
work
starts
the
showing up
event,
again.
yeah, and working the event, we'd have random people show up and say, no, it's $20, and if they're not participating that year, it's $100.
Yes,
And,
yeah.
you know, yeah.
Yeah.
This is a good deal. If you want to get rid of nasty, you know, almost everybody has some old oil-based paint, which the trash companies normally don't pick up unless you mix it with sand and dry it out. Or like I had some muriatic acid for washing some concrete, you know, and I think I had the can for about 30 years and finally got rid of it that way, you know. So it gets it out of the system the right way, and a lot of electronics as well. So, thank you. We made the motion and
Yep,
seconded.
we voted on it.
Voted on it, okay.
Roll call vote, everything.
Okay, thank you. I'm old and I forget. So now we'll move to our miscellaneous reports. First, Holly area.
No, we have Holly area.
Hi.
Hi,
Oh, hi, I apologize. That's right, there was a letter in there, but thank you. I didn't see that. Okay, is this yours, Teresa?
No, this is Janelle's.
It's really all of ours.
Okay.
This will be short and sweet, so just anytime that a board member joins either HIA or BGYA, we have to formally approve them through this board. So, what is in front of you here is that they, would like for us to accept Sydney Sinclair as a family school liaison for Holly's area schools to be on the HIA board. So my motion would be that we accept resolution 2024-014 in appointing her, approving her for that board.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, it's done, thank you. Completely forgot about that. Now, we'll move to miscellaneous reports.
Now we are back to HIA. Let's see, so if y'all remember, their meetings, they happen right after ours, so by the time we have the meeting, our meeting, they're almost ready for their next meeting. But I can give you a little bit of an update with what they did, or what they're working on. They did a Texas Roadhouse fundraiser, family tailgate, and some school supplies, where they were giving backpacks and school supplies for the year. This was back in like October-ish, I believe. They finished that up. They are working with the middle schools to develop some new programming. They have a toy project that they are working on this year for all the holidays. They are looking for a new location, so we know that there's been some movement happening within HIA as well. They're looking at some youth recognition improvements, possibly doing some applications quarterly, and then possibly moving their event to midwinter. And finally, they're looking for some new t-shirts. That is about it for HIA. Just a couple updates that I usually do toss in here with HIA are the veterans programs. So they do their monthly vet-to-vet dinner, so if any of you are vets, it's for families, you're welcome. They do have a bingo program coming up at VFW, steak bingo at 3:30 on the 23rd. Bingo starts at 4. And then they have a number of meetings coming up. They're holiday party is on the 18th.
Okay.
That's about all I have for my.
Thank you. Brandon?
BGYA, yes. So BGYA, we did meet this morning, and just some of the highlights. There were 7 referrals for service, for youth, for service for the caseworker in October, 7. There's opioid settlement money that has been coming in, and that's why Bob MacArthur said we're sitting on some money, but it is specifically must be spent on mental health and drug prevention type of programs. So the subcommittee consisting of Matt Jenkins and Diane Sullivan have been putting together a grant program, and they came up with it, and it looks fantastic. They are going to be marketing it, so to speak, to the teachers and staff members of Brandon School District for sort of like mini grants. If you have a program that you would like to complete in your classroom or at your school, you can apply for funds from this, and it'll be ongoing until the funds are pretty much depleted. So that is just getting out there. Christmas in the Village this year is going to be on Friday night and Saturday, December 6th and 7th. More information will be in the Citizen newspaper and also on the Brandon Groveland website and their Facebook page. And then Love and Logic in October, 10 families completed the whole program, which is really good. That's a great program. So, and the last thing is December 6th is the annual Youth Assistance Breakfast countywide, and it's the one where it starts at 7:30 in the morning, and the supervisor usually goes to that breakfast.
So when I meet with Bob, okay.
So that is December 6th. I am considering going as well. It's open to any board members because we are, charter members by bylaws. We're support sponsors of BGYA.
Bob and I went last year.
So, yeah. So we'll just ask if any of the trust, either of you guys wanna go, you can check your calendars, get back to us, but it's a $25, fee for that, but, I think they said that the speaker is gonna be Referee Harris is going to be, so it's somebody who deals with figuring out which cases go where in the court systems down there. So, should be interesting. And so, that's it. That's my update for BGYA.
Okay. Well, Jim's not here today for the planning commission, but I think everybody knows that at the last planning commission, the planning commission approved the ordinance structure that they wrote, and I thought they did a great job on trying to address all the concerns. It goes to the township board next, but I haven't put it on the agenda, and I said I wouldn't until we understood what the court case that's pending would be. And so it's not on today's agenda, and it's not planned. Gina, do you have anything for the BZA?
No, we did not have a meeting, and I would just say I'm looking forward to getting back to work on the ordinances we're talking about aging in place and making some changes along those lines for homeowners, or adding some things in, and maybe getting back to work on some of that stuff now.
I know on a planning issue, we originally had on this agenda something about the noise ordinance, and that, just so everybody knows, that came as an outshoot from the sergeant that works the afternoon shift out here and gets most of the noise complaints. And he said our ordinance made it hard for them to be able to effectively do that, and gave us some suggested language from others. But my question today, when Danielle showed me this on the agenda, is did we actually run it back by the trooper and ask him, is this what he was looking for? So that's the reason I pulled it off. I'm sure they'll be back on, but I would like to make sure we're getting what the state police think they need to do the job.
That makes good sense. Yeah.
That's it. Supervisor, well, I went to our monthly meeting at the new building, and guess what? The builder didn't show up. So I jokingly said it took longer to clean the mud off my car than it did to have the meeting. It was there with the ladies from the state police. But they'll do it again the first month, and just so you know, Kevin, I've left a series, we'll go over it next week, but I've left a series of email messages with some dates on them for that project so that you know what they are, so you can cross them off at your leisure. But that's it, we're waiting to find out what happens, of course, with the case that got filed officially on Friday against Public Act 233. I did get a copy of it late today. I did send it to Will Hassler, our attorney, and I've asked him to kind of boil it down in layman, it's voluminous. Boil it down in layman's terms, rather than tell you what my opinion is of it. I'll let Will do that and ask him if he has any suggestions for us. So that's pretty much it for supervisor. This is my last meeting, and I will not do the next one. Okay, clerk.
You sure you're done?
I'm sure I'm done.
Okay, so biggest thing, of course, was just finishing up the election, so that all, well, we're still finishing it up, I have to.
It went great, did a super job.
Yes, it went very, very well. We had about 73% of our registered voters turn out to vote, so about 2% down from 2020, but 2020 was also a lot of mail-in ballots. That entire year just looked different, so really not too far off. But it's about 73%. Our early voting was phenomenal. So just so you know, for those of you who don't pay attention really to elections, early voting started for us back in February with the presidential primary. For the 9 early days, so this is not including election day, we had about 120 people come over the course of 9 days. So we're open every day, right? About 10-hour days for election officials. Same thing in August, we had about 120 over 9 days. We ended up with about 1,200 in this general election just this past couple weeks. So it was a great turnout for early voting. If you aren't familiar with it, find out. It's going to be at every state and federal election, unless the law changes between now and then. But on that note, it went very, very well. I just want to give a little prop out there to Neil Lachlan. He was there every day for early voting, and because this was such a new beast for us, all of the new laws that have changed over the last, since 2022, since Proposal 2 was implemented, he was a phenomenal resource for us to have just for consistency and stability every single day.
That's because he was an engineer.
Yes.
Puts it all in the right place.
Yes, and he did, and it's, I mean, Jenny was able to help us with elections. Thank you very much, Jenny, as well. But it's helpful to just know what did the person before you do the day before. So it was tremendous. I also do want to thank Laura very much, because Laura has only been here just a little over a year, and she pretty much started, and I said, great, here come elections. And then we had 5 in 1 year. And if anybody pays attention to the climate of elections, not everyone is always very excited and happy to interact with you. So for your first year, thank you so much for doing such a great job. I really appreciate you having you on board.
Thank you.
So that's elections. Just a couple things to keep in mind. We have holiday hours that'll be a little bit different over the holidays, like many businesses. We did get, if you notice, we have a new table here, so we have a few more of those to put together, but I think we did pretty well with our picks.
Yeah, much better than the old.
Chairs are nice.
Chairs. Yes.
There's no trading blocks.
We close on our old chairs.
On my clothing.
So the gray ones over here are also new. You can see the boxes in the corner. We haven't quite. The election kept us busy, so we haven't put everything together, but we did get those purchased. The roof has been repaired. We did have electrical installed in the basement, which was an issue for the election. So again, if you voted downstairs, you probably had to at some point step over some duct tape. So we tried to remove some of those hazards, and that worked very well. I wanted to make sure everybody was aware, of the Oakland Transit survey that is currently out. So you're all paying with your taxes into the transit system. This is your opportunity to get your voice heard. So I encourage you to take the survey. What do we need up here? Being up here in the north, you know, maybe not the priority because we have a little bit more of a spread out population. Take the survey. So I'm gonna leave that up here if anybody's interested in taking that today. The CDBG hearing we were supposed to have this week, but with the elections and everything, we didn't get the public hearing in time, so we're just gonna do it next month. The very two last things that I have here, the handbook and policies have been following for a long time. I just wanted to highlight kind of three major things that really need to be modified, and I know Gina, you've mentioned that you're willing to work with me on this, but I really at this point think that it's gonna be useful to have an HR professional or attorney be a part of this process. These are the three major things that we need to look at. First of all, our HRA funding decisions. Right now, we don't have any parameters for how old do we provide for families? How old are the children? We have nothing that's set in stone, it's just children. General rule with many insurance companies is 26. If we're gonna do that, that's fine, but I think we need to have that written in the policy somewhere. We also, there are new laws that they're going to be implemented in 2025 February, so just a couple months. This is minimum wage and then also the part-time sick pay, which we do not have currently for part-time employees, election inspectors, part-time and on-call firefighters. These will apply for all of them. Also, who would be a part of that as well would be our ordinance officer and cable manager, and currently we have nothing in place to keep track of their hours. So we need to look at that and figure out a plan for it, which kind of rolls into that third item, which is classification for employees. So again, ordinance officer, cable manager, and then we also have the fire department auxiliary staff. And right now, we really don't have any definitions for what do we provide for each of these groups and classifications of people. So there's a lot more to this, and maybe that helps you to know why I haven't finished my thing yet.
The only thing I would say is, let's not use who we used 5 years ago, because obviously, the redundancy, they dropped the ball.
I do agree, I did talk to them, just out of curiosity. It would be about $500 for them to make some modifications, up to 1,000, just as an FYI.
As opposed to like some new company?
Yeah, so a new company would be creation of the whole thing again.
Yeah, and that,
So that could be less cost effective. But if we know what we need to change, it may not, maybe it's not so bad to go with the same company, I don't know. So there's just some.
$1,000 to do that whole thing.
It was, but did you read it? I mean,
I wasn't
seriously,
on board at
it
that
was,
time, but yes, I
yeah,
read it.
read it.
So I'm curious of your thoughts specifically on that. My very last item is the most important item, but I wanna finish that one first.
About which company?
Just, yeah, would you be opposed to us working with a company to go through some of these policies and make modifications? Actually, Gina, I would love to work alongside of you with the company. I think that would be helpful to.
You get a much better result because they deal with that stuff all the time.
Yes, well, and now with the new laws,
It gets sticky.
it gets really sticky.
Yeah, it does.
From that perspective, absolutely, we need a company to go with, but some of the things that we were picking up on
Were additional
were,
changes.
right,
Yes.
but we know what they are now.
Exactly.
They're highlighted,
That's
they're
what I'm
marked,
thinking.
that's yeah.
So if it's gonna be a substantial savings to go with the same company, I mean, they may not send us the same people that did
Yeah.
it before. You know, that was 5 years ago.
Well, and like
So-
Gina said, we know a little bit more, I think, about what
Right.
to look for now too, because we've highlighted some of those
Yeah.
questions and inconsistencies.
And I would be happy to point out what those are and say this won't happen again.
Yeah. Well, do you want me to maybe get a definitive quote, bring it back in December? In the meantime, we can kind of toss around some ideas and thoughts.
Yeah, I'm
Thoughts
fine
on
with that. Maybe see what a new company would cost versus, you know,
Maybe Wade Trim has a recommendation?
Yeah, well, we have a couple of other companies that we have resources through. They may provide some of these services.
okay.
Okay. The most important piece, of course, is that, we do have a retirement party next Tuesday for Bob DePalma. 28 years, full-time,
5 months. 28 years, 5 months, but who's
28
counting?
and 5 months full-time. I did some very brief, numbers on that, and that is approximately 340 board meetings.
Wow.
It's not an easy position to have. It's not an easy seat to fill, so, we're very grateful for you. Excited for the party next week. We do have some pie and sparkling grape juice because I can't serve wine. But for those of you who are interested in celebrating Bob, just his last meeting tonight after the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Bob.
Teresa, your report.
Well, shoot, after that, and mine's brief. The assessors were in the area recently, going out and about and updating their records. December 10th at 10 a.m. is the December Board of Review for clerical corrections and exemption approvals. And at this time, I am just working on creating and finalizing the winter tax bill, and that will be mailed out by the end of the month, and it should be in your mailboxes. Those of you who get them, and they don't, so if you're escrowed, you don't get a tax bill, but if you're not escrowed and you get your own, you should have it by December 1st or 2nd. And if you're interested in learning about how you can look at your own tax information online at bsaonline.com, you can see me or call my office. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this point, we'll open up the meeting to public comment before we reconvene for your fire board meeting. John, so is there any public comment? Sure.
Share with you, because I'm an HR manager.
Yeah.
So the ESTA is a hot swamp mess, and, no, it is.
That's what it seems.
It's very bad. But I have a lot of different resources. I've attended a lot of webinars, a lot of legal things on that. So if you want, I can email you stuff that I have.
Sure.
There's a lot of questions that have not been answered yet,
That's what I'm
because they
saying.
left a lot of loopholes in
Yes.
the legislation. But you're also gonna be looking at 1099s. You're gonna be looking at seasonal employees. Even if somebody works for you one day a year, you still have to track their time. So, and then there's a 6-month rehire period too. So there's a lot of stuff that goes with that, if you want it all.
Yeah, if you have resources, I'd love to take a look. I know, Chief Williams, he's gonna have, I think, some work cut out for him too. When it's be on call, Renaissance Festival, I mean, all of these potential employees. It's not
Yeah,
it's like a mess.
it is a mess.
I hate doing this again, but on the I heard you mention the CDBG. If you're going to turn in and request those funds, there's a specific way to do that, and I would appreciate, I would help you do that, because if you do youth, it's kids that are 13 and older, and if you do child, it's 12 and under. And we try to balance those groups between the municipalities on where do we really need the most funds to be able to get it back. So I'd be glad to, before you sign the contract, because that's gonna be one of the questions or what you have to fill out, and then you're stuck with it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Good suggestion. Any other, Jim?
Yeah, I couldn't miss your last meeting. I've been in this community for over 30 years. I had about 23 years where I was able to participate in various committees with this township and to work with you. And you've always had the highest level of integrity and ethics of anyone I've encountered. And you've done a great vision for this township over the years. You know, when you think of what could have been, whether it be with the
Stabilizer Star.
garbage dump or what's gonna be a state of class, ORV park. And you've just done a tremendous job. I'm very grateful. I think many members of this community are grateful for the place that we live in and that your service has helped to provide, and so I thank you.
It helps that I don't wanna move, because I still
Yeah.
live here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments before we move to the fire board? Okay, if not, a motion to, I'm sorry.
I thought she was gonna go ahead and go.
Oh, I didn't see you.
Yeah, and I've seen you before, I've not seen you, Janelle. I represent a group that are living under the prospect of the best thing coming in up at I-75 and East Holly Road. I live on East Holly Road. My name is Janice Roth. And, first of all, I would like to, I saw your resolution thing here that you have, in support of, promoting this convention, of the states, resolution number 100924, resolution from Groveland Township expressing support for the Convention of States to call an Article 5 Constitution, proposed amendment to the Constitution of the United States. I have dotted several things here. Whereas, unsurprisingly, the decisions, policies, laws, regulations, and actions of our federal officials and institutions in Washington, D.C. are unresponsive to the unique needs and situations of individual states and localities. We are a locality. Also, whereas the federal government has invaded the legitimate roles of the states through manipulative processes of federal mandates, etc. Whereas it is a solemn duty of the states to protect the liberty of our people, particularly for generations to come. This is your recognition of the federal government overstepping states and localities. Now, in August, we were asked at the Planning Commission to submit suggestions, and I think it was a July thing. And the part about undeveloped land, and you've heard me, Bob, you have heard me mention this before, but my suggestion was in our ordinance to include undeveloped land in accordance with the state of Michigan's stipulations in their own wording. 1, there must be strong justification for the use of undeveloped land. 2, alternatives must be considered. 3, there must be consideration of what the adjacent properties are, which we are aiming to put a fire hazard in the middle of a forest, which borders residential people right along and they're gonna clear out 14 acres in the middle of 64.5 acres of mostly forest. And these things are 25% have caught on fire in other places. They burn for weeks and weeks and even a month. You cannot put them out with water. And we don't have water pumping mechanism there to put out a forest fire, which can just wipe out all of those homes. Is that philosophy in recognition of what you are proposing to the federal government? Could we propose to the state of Michigan to protect us in the same way that you are trying to propose
You
to the
certainly
federal
could
government?
write a resolution that could be done, but
Okay.
I'll tell you, just so you understand,
And
that resolution was written by a group of citizens that are big on having a constitutional convention to do that, okay? And we wrote it, I understand, we wrote it in support, but I did ask, I made some inquiries, is this actually going anywhere? I'm just being honest with you. I don't know anybody that thinks that's going to amount to anything. We just did it as a moral support for a group of citizens that come in here every year and say they want a constitutional convention to try and get a balanced budget. That has no legal weight, but if you want to write a resolution to the state, I think you're perfectly within your rights to do so. All of the points you brought up today were discussed, and I don't know what else I can tell you. The problem is that sometimes we're comparing apples and oranges and saying, see, they're not the same, and they're really not.
But the principle is the same.
Well, that's it. You could write a resolution if you want, and ask the
All
township
the
to do it.
residents and our people. Okay, the other thing is, why, in the September meeting, we were told that these state worded things that I had proposed in my thing to the Planning Commission, we were told they would be included. In the October meeting, they were not included, and the resolution passed, the ordinance passed. No one gave us an answer for that. And my question.
Neil addressed that one.
I'm sorry?
I thought Neil said that he had put that in.
No,
It was
what he
referenced in
said
the other
was, he
sections.
referenced a spot, I don't have it in front of me now, he
Okay.
referenced a spot that was a general sentence which sort of addressed, if you go in and take land, but it was not specific, it was not using the Michigan
And the
words.
township's not voting on that ordinance today.
Okay.
Like I said, we wouldn't.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's okay, you asked for public
Okay.
comments. And
Well, no, I'm just saying, so you understand, we're
Yeah,
not voting on it.
I
Okay.
understand that, and I just want to say, I appreciate the Planning Commission has always listened to us. They have been very kind, and they have been, tolerant of our, even sometimes outbursts. But we are concerned. That's why you see vote no for Bess up and down East Holly Road. We are concerned. I don't even live right on that street there. But these people that do, eventually, there's a 25% chance that their homes will be burned up. And this is criminal. It is criminal. And it lines up with exactly what you have given as a Groveland Township. It says, a resolution from Groveland Township. Is that because it was a person, or was that the township board?
It was a resolution adopted by the board, written by a group of citizens that wanted that petition signed, and they've been trying to do this for several years. They usually meet here, I think, once or twice a year to try and get a constitutional amendment to it. It's never actually gone anywhere, but they're looking for municipalities just to say, we agree with the concept you're trying to do.
Okay,
And that's
so
basically what it
the
was.
township board supported that.
Well,
All
we
we're
said we
saying
adopt
is the
resolution.
township board should support the fact that we need to pressure the state of Michigan in the very same way.
Well,
And that slips us through, and we need to know, because we are gonna march on Lansing, I will tell you that right now.
I think you should.
And we need to know when Vesper is going to go up to Lansing to give their little, they send out postcards, did you see them?
Yeah, we did.
Postcards?
We got one.
Oh, yeah, all this sweet talk, I'm sorry, this, I don't.
I think if you wanna petition or go up to Lansing and march in front of the Capitol, you should, it's within your rights to do it, I'm serious. I think you should, if you wanna write a resolution and submit it and see if the board will adopt it, you should. I'm telling you though that there's a reality, I think, on what actually makes a difference and what doesn't. And when you take a kind of a shotgun to a lot of things that you know can't likely work, I think you create more frustration for yourself because you don't see the traction you're looking for. Nobody in the township, not me or anybody on this board or anyone on the planning commission, has asked Vesper to be here or wants it, or asked for this.
I understand that.
We have done everything we can, and what I promised at the last meeting was, after they approved their ordinance there, was I will not put it on the township board agenda until we understand what's going to happen with the court case. And I followed up with that when I got in this morning. I talked to our attorney, and I found out that they actually filed their case on Friday. I got a copy of it sent to me when I called the MTA at about 3:30, and I have read it. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm not inclined to think that what they've petitioned is actually gonna do much, but I sent it to our attorney and said, tell us what you think this boils down to and what options or alternatives we have so I can give it to the board. I'm not gonna make that decision. I'm gone in 8 days.
Right.
And I'm not going to, there's no part on me that is trying to hustle this through in any way.
No, I
I'm
don't.
simply trying to find out, given the rules and the requirements we have, what is the safest possible scenario we can end up with. And when I read that court case, I don't even see where that actually addresses it. It's mostly about a procedural violation that they think that the Public Service Commission made in the way they established the rules that they think isn't right. Now, when I called their attorney the first time, and he told me they were gonna file the suit, and I said, well, I'd like to know a little more about it, what's gonna happen, his first comment to me was, you know, we might ask for a stay on it. He said, they can write an all ordinance, and we've got several of them on the books already, that says that your ordinance doesn't apply, the zoning is up to the state on this issue. One example is adult foster care homes, okay? Another one I think is gunfire or gun ranges on a general law township, where they were quite blatant about saying, I don't care what your ordinance says, it means nothing compared to the state's, we override it. So I asked him, if you think they've overwritten the way they did this and it isn't right, what are you gonna do? Well, we're gonna see if we can get them to clarify the rules. I said, but if you're, and his comment to me was, not only doesn't it allow them to overwrite the ordinance, but they know how to do it, they just didn't put the language in here. So I immediately said, well then, don't you think if you appeal this, all they're going to do is amend the language? And he said, well, they might do that, which is why I've said, I will not do anything with the court case that's pending until we understand what do we think can actually come out of it and what can actually be done to see if it's got some benefit. I'm not a lawyer, but when I read it today, and it's voluminous, I don't think it does what we're looking for. And I'm discouraged when the guy says, yeah, they could just change the language and make it like the other 4 or 5 ordinances and do it. So I don't think that's going to fix it. Maybe if you get enough people to march on the Capitol in Lansing, you'll get enough press coverage and they'll do it. But I think what we're seeing happen is not enough people were willing to sign that petition to try and put it back on the ballot, which I thought was a great idea if we could get it done. But they couldn't, okay?
We didn't know about it. Most of us did not know about that.
Whatever the reason is, it didn't go anywhere and they kind of dropped it now, right? And so the other question is, what can you actually do that can affect a change on this? We have plenty of ordinances on the books already, unfortunately, that completely circumvent what the township wants to do. So the reason I didn't sign up for this was several. Our attorney said, even if they do it with one township, if they are successful in their court case, all 1,242 townships get the same benefit. When I talked to the people that were putting the case together, they said they know how to fix this, they just didn't put the language in there, which tells me I think the best thing I think that can come out of this is they'll say, you didn't do it exactly the right way, now go back and do an amendment to the legislation and make it say the same thing those other 4 or 5 ordinances do.
That's exactly what the ordinance did. They did not put in the state of Michigan language like I suggested.
And that's,
And
well,
why?
Stronger at the state of Michigan.
The strong
But
language
I'm
of
getting-
the state of Michigan
none of
was
that-
left out,
none
and we
of
were
that-
promised in September
none of that is going to
it would
change
be
it.
in. Well, that is your opinion, but we
Well,
still have to try.
none of that's going to change it unless you can get the state to change it.
And you have their language in your ordinance, and you can base your argument upon their language, which is strong, which would protect our residents, then you've got some teeth in your ordinance here. And 76 counties and townships have already signed on, at least that's what I counted, on the lawsuit. And it is at least, in opinion, another township that would say, no, we don't want this.
Okay,
Okay, I'm done.
okay.
Thank you.
Did you want to make a comment?
Yeah. I just, I'm not gonna read from my notes, I even left my 3-inch folder in my car tonight. Because, and I do wanna say this first. You know, at the end of the day, and I said this at the first meeting, we're all people. We're all people that need to treat one another with respect. The thing of it is that, the more information that you ask and the less that's given, it just kind of stinks funny. And so I just am hoping that when it's all looked at and said and done, that the truth is just completely made known. Just every last detail. Like, for example, when you say that you didn't go looking for it, Vesper came here. That's true. Or that could be true. We don't have any proof of that. We have your word on that. No, I'm saying we have your word on it. It's not to knock anybody. So if Vesper came here based on what you're saying, they're only leasing that property with option to buy, and I think that's because they know full well that it depends upon what this township decides. And so this township can have the kahunas to say, no, Vesper, we won't allow you to build. This township can say, we're sorry, but we don't care about those dollars, because all those other points that have been discussed since June, I found out about a June 3rd meeting because a friend of mine came to renew her dog tags and said, did you know this is happening? I didn't know anything what a best was. I did my due diligence and I began to research, and I'm still researching today. I have somebody that over the weekend, I went to a wedding out of state and I brought this up, who has given me some advice on what to do next should you guys vote yes. Based upon not to fire against people, not to use words against people or to make anybody feel like they're less than, but to make sure that you guys really have all the information at your hand. Because it can be an extremely dangerous event with 4 schools. Because you guys look at Brandon and Groveland and you guys go, this is like your wall here along Dixie Highway. You have the Dixie Highway corridor, and by the way, thank you to whoever's been working on this website. And the fact that I could just go and find Vesper's, Vesper did that presentation, but they only got to get through like 2 or 3 slides because poor Jeff Penzian didn't even know that they had a presentation. And
it wasn't until after the third meeting that it really made me dig deeper and to say, what in the heck is this? Because it surely doesn't seem like this is gonna be a good thing, but definitely after the fourth, when they weren't even allowed to give their final presentation, it was just stuck online. So now it is on us to do what we need to do. We went old school for the planning commission board. We typed up letters, we spent our time typing letters, leaving our homes or our workplaces to come here and have to make Danielle put up a huge book. I watched her making comments. And you know, at the end of the day, I hope I can live safely where we bought property in 1999 and built a house and moved in 2001 and have paid our taxes. And I'm not even emotional tonight. This is my true hope and prayer, is that the truth of everything, and I don't just mean about this board, I mean dig deep and make sure that you know that you know. I know, Bob, it was Public Act 233. That's what you said at the very meeting out there on Dixie Highway. You said, we've got to protect our local government. I heard that, many of us heard that. So protect your local government and protect your community.
I guess we can all hope that this court case, which I don't see it in it, but we can all hope that this court case is successful and overturns the whole thing. But I'm telling you, that's not what I think I see, and I haven't found people to say it. We can all hope.
I appreciate that you said that, but at the same time, to me personally, a decision to not get in and support that, to add to those 70 plus, says that Groveland doesn't care about Public Act 233, because that's really what that's all about, is Public Act 233. And I get what Will's saying, but even at that planning commission, people only just heard about the lawsuit, again, just a couple days. I found out about it Wednesday. Some of your planning commission found out about it Friday.
We only knew about it a couple days before.
Exactly, and I found out about it Wednesday. I have it.
And that's why I said the prudent thing was to do nothing until we understood what was actually happening. And I followed up on it. I just got back today. I followed up on it from this morning until 3:30 when I got a copy of it. And I passed it on to the attorney and said I need some answers on it.
Well, and on the record, I'll say that off the record, somebody told me that the beginning of this, the way that it came, wasn't really followed by the right process. And I don't know what they meant by that, but maybe you guys do. But I will say this, that on behalf of our community, we're asking what steps are being taken by Groveland Township to protect our community, the school district of Holly, and those that don't just live right there around it, but within the radius of what the dangers could cause. From any potential health impacts due to the best sites, which is also called Woodson. And by the way, it won't be Vesper, it'll be Woodson LLC, because Woodson will be the owner of the property unless Woodson actually buys the property, then Woodson will be, but it's LLC. They keep themselves from being liable. Are there any, and again, I guess it's not that I'm not for green energy or for tax dollars to come in or for our government to be protected, but I'm not okay with somebody who wants to do a land grab and mess up and possibly cause potential danger. I would trade homes with anybody who isn't gonna be that close within the dangerous part for your wells and for your air and for a thermal runaway. What will the township do, and sorry Kevin, you're coming into it. Are there any specific health risks that are associated for those, particularly in the event of a thermal runaway, a fire, or toxic gas emission? How will the schools or the families or the community be notified if an evaluation becomes necessary? Will there be ongoing monitoring systems in place to detect if there are leaks, gas emissions, or fires? Because I know you have your fire gentleman here. It's different than the first fire guy who was here, and I don't know what happened to Madeline Cole. I noticed that the faces are changing over these months.
Madeline Cole's job was really to help. She was the one that was hired by the state to write their ordinance, and as I pointed out before, what bothers me greatly is many of the changes that we put into the ordinance were based on her input to us, because basically they paid her to write the ordinance, and they said, thanks, but now we're not gonna do it that way anyway, which instantly makes everybody subject to it. The only thing we're disagreeing here on, I think, is the fact that the township still has to comply with whatever the state law is, whether we like it or hate it. So let's hope that the people filing this case maybe have a broader reach than what I read when I read through it today, and maybe it can actually stop it. But I'm telling you, we're against some huge forces. You heard people say that that bill got passed at like midnight or 2 in the morning with an hour where they told them, you can read it later, like a Nancy Pelosi quote, right? Okay, and it passed right along party lines. So the governor's still in office for 2 years, and the Senate is still democratically controlled. I think what I'm telling you is I don't see how they can change what's going to happen there because of the control that they have on it. I don't like it. I've been opposed to it. Today I told the lady up at the MTA when I was checking on this, I got 8 days left, so I'm just checking with you. What's the latest on what's going on this? Because I have a board meeting tonight. And she said, well, I can still get a hold of you to testify against the sand and gravel people, can't I? I said, yeah, I'm not moving anywhere, yes. But you can't find somebody that has been a hard and true, bigger proponent opposed to state taking control of stuff. And Janelle, I had a conversation where I said, my biggest fear is that what's happening in the last few years is quite evident. The state and the county are aggressively moving to try and figure out how to take all the issues that they want to get done and run them either through the county or the state and completely leave the township out of it. So my point is, whatever we think is irrelevant, if we can't change the state law, and it's clear the Democrats are not going to change that, they're the ones that passed it, it doesn't matter, because this isn't a case where you just say no and then nobody shows up. You just say no, and plan B is go to the state and get it approved by them, and they don't even have to talk to your township about it or do anything that you ask. That's the problem.
To the point, and that's where you said we are probably disagreeing, but I think that we're more in agreement, is the fact that the point is that if you pass a law that keeps that control within the local government, then this local government has the authority to say no to Vesper. It isn't about
only on that ordinance, not on the whole state law.
Correct. So then that would cause Vesper to go to the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan has put it into Eagle. So if this government says no, then they have to go to the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan may look at those points that Janice has brought forward and then say, this is not a site that we as the state of Michigan, that's a risk that we take. But if you guys just let them, then we're stuck with it regardless.
I think where it is when you look at the prevailing information, the state of Michigan's likelihood of saying no to them, I think, is honestly less than 0.5%, because the state's the one that wrote the law. The state law says on page 2, we don't have to take any suggestions from the township whatsoever, okay? The state training on it said, and if you don't approve them, well, they'll just come to the Public Service Commission and we'll approve it. Those are quotes out of those documents. So to sit there and think that now they're gonna all of a sudden say, well, you know, they didn't really consider this, we think we're gonna turn it down. I think you're wrong, but that's the crapshoot you're taking, because on November the 29th, that law goes into effect. And even this court action that's filed isn't going to be heard anywhere near that time frame. So if we back off and completely get rid of the ordinance, and they end up going to the state, we're stuck. We don't have anything.
Get rid of the ordinance.
Which is why I've said we have an ordinance that is
stronger than the state.
I've said we have an ordinance that is way overwhelming from what the state says in numerous areas. Right down the line on everything you can think of. Let me finish. And so we have a much stronger ordinance. So we're just holding it in abeyance, not doing anything with it, haven't denied it, haven't approved it, till we can find out whether or not the state action is going to take anything. My guess is what I think will happen, if they get any traction on that at all, I'll bet you the state will go into lame duck session in December and pass an amendment to the existing 233 to put whatever tweak they needed on the language to get that done, because that's when they try to, everybody's familiar with this, I'm sure. Lame duck sessions are at the end of the year. They get a whole package of bills they want to get ruffled through, and they pass it through based on party lines to get them done. That's my biggest fear of this. And what I don't want to have happen is where the township has no alternative But to come back and say, well, we've told you no, and then that Vesper is forced to say, if we still want that site, we go to the state, and now I'm not asking you anything. That's what my concern is. And that's why I think the prudent thing is not to run like a chicken without a head and say, we'll just throw some money at this lawsuit and hope it works. Because it doesn't look like it will to me. But to ask our attorney, look at this, evaluate it, tell us what you see, and give us some alternatives for the board to consider. And I won't be making that decision. It's not me, but I think that's the right thing to do. And that's the way I think we're gonna handle it, because that's typically how we do it.
Well, Vesper has to go to the state of Michigan with our ordinance to get a certification to do this. So they're gonna
Okay.
have to go to the state of Michigan with an ordinance or without.
Yeah, but the difference is, if they go
Yes,
with
I
our ordinance, it
understand
has to
that.
comply with all those extra conditions that we put in. If they go to the state of Michigan without our ordinance, they only have to comply with exactly what is in Act 233, which I have said all along is woefully, incomprehensibly bad and poor. So that's the difference. You're taking it like, if we say no, they'll go to the state and the state will say no.
No,
I don't think there's a
they
chance
go
in
to the
heck of
state
that happening.
regardless. The state has to approve this.
But if they have agreed to our WIO, the state can approve it based on our stricter conditions. Any other alternative other than that means you go to the state's criteria, which has been clearly spelled out. These are the only rules and the only stipulations you can place on them. And they're terrible.
So these 5 points that were Michigan language given to us by Jeff in the middle, back in July, these statements that I read, and I suggested they be put in our ordinance, they were left out. Was the reason they were left out because Vesper would not agree to it? This is the state of Michigan
I'm still not,
working.
I understand what you're saying. I'm not sure that they weren't incorporated in those other changes
They
at
were
the end,
not.
but
Because we had a copy of the
Okay.
one that you voted
Okay.
on. And the gentleman to the left, Neil, I think,
Mhm.
you're
Neil,
right, our
right.
left. He's the one that said, oh, but it's covered in B on page 1 or whatever. That was just a general blah, 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 you know.
Well,
just
because
think
you think if
but-
they make a statement like that in that law, that somehow that must be complied with every time. And I
But
don't
you
think
can
that's the way the
try.
law is, I don't think that's the way the law is written. No, it says these are general parameters we're looking for, but it doesn't say each and every one of those must be complied with. The only thing it really says in the law is you can't ask for restrictions on these applications any greater than what the state has outlined. And the state didn't even take their own people's recommendation.
Okay, number 4, the state's wording, the impact and effect on the health and safety of the community must be considered.
But that's
You need to
that's
tell
a
me
statement
that
that you can't put an actual hard parameter on that. I understand what you're saying. I am sympathetic to what you're saying. I just don't think it's I think we're all gonna find out what happens with the court case. And if it does, if a Hail Mary pass works and, creek don't rise and all that, and the court comes back and says, you guys are absolutely right at that legal firm, we're gonna throw that law out and you can't do anything with it, I'll be the first guy that will say, great, cancel the
All I can
project.
say is we should try.
Well, and that is why I've given it to our attorney to evaluate it. But we do take our legal advice from an attorney, because, as I like to tell people, I get plenty of threats in here from people that wanna do things and say, I'm gonna sue you, and I say, well, I'll give you my attorney's number, cause in the 28 years I've been here, I've never lost a court case with him.
And we
And I
have
think he
lived
gives
on
us
East
good
County
advice.
Road for 28 years this coming February, so we are not newcomers, no.
I'm just telling you, that's why I take our advice from a lawyer. They look at it based on the law and tell us, here's what I think the options are or are not. And until we have that, I'm not.
I just wanna finish my statement, if that's okay, because, ultimately, where I was going was not about the lawsuit, and it was not even about the WIO. It was about when and if the vote does come, and about keeping the control within our local government and protecting the citizens of Groveland Township. I just wanna restate that you guys, Groveland Township, like you're hearing me go this way and that way, but where we are, I will tell you what, I am the border. I am the last house on East Holly Road. The house next door to me is Holly Township, but the high school's 1 mile. No, the house next to me is Holly Township, I'm Groveland, yes.
Yes.
The high school's 1 mile from the house. The proposed site, it is proposed. I think it's proposed. It feels like it's
Well, it's not even
beyond-
applied yet.
Let me just say why it feels like it's beyond, is because the moment that LIO passed, the employees of Vesper walked out of here and did not stay.
To that point,
In
just so you
addition-
know, I talked to them a couple days later, because they never called me back. I emailed her or something, and I said, I left her a voicemail, I said, you do realize that ordinance isn't law until the township board actually decides to pass it. She said, oh no, we're well aware of that. So, I don't have to tell you, she understands how it works.
Again,
She
the
left when
point
she heard
isn't
what
the
you wanted.
LIO, the point isn't the lawsuit, the point is the proposed build for that site.
Mhm.
Should this board decide to vote yes, we border over here. You guys have got your ORV park that brings a lot of revenue. You have your Rotten
No, it
Man.
doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
It
I'm
brings-
sorry.
The
That's
revenue
county.
from
My
the
bad, my
ORV
bad.
park is exactly
My
the
bad.
same as was paid for
I
by the
misspoke
previous
again.
owner as an empty gravel
Understand,
pit.
understand. Let me start over. You guys use, I'm not reading, like I said, I'm speaking.
Okay.
I could go to your website. I was looking at your prior one that you had. Let me go back to it so I don't misspeak. And you now have a new one, and I wanna call it the right thing. Hold on one moment, please. Your master plan. The master plan that you guys had, when I looked at your master plan was June and in July, that you guys put together with citizens of Groveland Township. That you said, what do you want Groveland Township to look like? Should Groveland Township Board pass for the Woodson project, you go against that master plan. I haven't read your new master plan, and I don't know who's putting that together, but I will read that. But as you guys have your corridor, I got that from the master plan. As you guys have your corridor that you have here and how you want that to build up according to your prior master plan, I hope that the plan now doesn't include tearing down that I-70, from I-75 all the way those 60+ acres over time. Because it won't just be 5 acres worth of batteries.
It does not.
It won't just be 5, it doesn't to you. But unless you're.
You asked me if it's in the
this is
master
what I'm
plan, and I said no.
If the WIO protects that they're only allowed to do, even if you say yes to it, but never again, because in my August 5th letter, I put this. It's a one and done. You are not allowed to build on it. Like when you have these.
And we did that.
Do you-
We had that discussion early on with them. Originally,
But
they said we
but a
might want to
verbal
increase the
agreement is not
capacity.
in writing, Bob, and so like, you
Well, all of
have
that, no, all of
your-
that is in the ordinance. We
you
put
have
that in the
your
ordinance. I know that's in
not a
there.
one and done.
Yes, it is.
If I may say what Jim Christopher and others said in that planning commission, is that now it's workable, so if they have something else, they can come back for approval, just like the meeting that had the Rotten Manor and had Renaissance come. And they have changes that they wanted to make, and their approvals were done. So those workable ordinance that you guys, that you pass, you can still say no to Vesper even if you pass an ordinance. That's what I am trying to get out of my mouth today. Is it just because you pass a workable ordinance in response to Public Act 233 is what you brought forward, does not mean a yes to Bass at that site. And it doesn't
Okay.
have to mean that. That's all I kept trying to get out. I didn't need to get to the lawsuit and all that other rigmarole. That is my public comment.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank
Are there any others?
I just have a question.
I would have a comment. I don't know if you're aware, but Bob DePalma has gone up to Lansing and been our advocate for the gravel pits. The state wants to take them and do whatever they want. Bob has gone up there 3 times and fought for us. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and I guess he will do it again. I don't know if you're aware of Titsworth, who was our former supervisor. Thank you, Don Titsworth. When Stablex wanted to come in here, I happened to be over there with Don and Helen says, oh, you don't realize how much money Stablex offered us. I looked at her, I said, what are you talking about? She said, oh, the money they wanted to give us, supervisor, to, yeah, come on in, you bring it up here. And she said, we've lived here our lives, we would never do that. And she said, of course, we would have had to move. I mean, this is the kind of person we have here, the same credibility. Bob has fought his heart out to try to keep this away from us. I'm sorry, if we do nothing, we're screwed, because they will go to the state, and the things that we have already in it will be gone.
So Lynn, I'm hearing you, but from this side of somebody that doesn't know Bob, and I'm just now interacting with Bob, there have been so many things that have been said that I've disproved, and I have facts of what was said and facts of what really happened. So when you're looking at somebody that you just met and they're not credible, you have a very hard time believing what's coming out of their mouth.
Oh.
So you can give them all the praise in the world that you want, and that's okay. But
This is
my initial
let's not be
conversation,
personal.
no, I'm saying my initial conversations, and a lot of us that are just now getting involved with this level of government, are that we cannot trust the people that sit in front of us. So I'm sorry, maybe if you don't like that, but that's
Is there
coming
anything new? This wasn't really a discussion like a legal, it's not on the agenda, but is there anything else? If not, a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn and we reopen for the fire board meeting.
Is there a second? Let's go. Gina?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye?
Aye. Can we take a 1 minute break?
Take one.
All right, thank you for hearing me. First of all, let's start off with the apparatus. We had tanker one that we found a bad valve on it during truck checks in the morning. So we Justin and I tore the pump panel apart and found that it had a bad valve on it. We ordered it and Justin had replaced it this morning and it's back in service now.
Thank you.
So that one worked out pretty well. We got ladder one back from Apollo.
They wanted $5,000?
Yeah, they wanted $5,000 to
Fix it again.
redo what they just did 8 months ago, so kind of going round and round with them on that one. And we've gotten it back in some of their work, one of the fittings had a leak on it, so we had their mobile guy come out and they're trying to charge us for that as well. You know, $350 for him to show up and tighten the fitting up, but. We have the cylinders off the sides of it, and they're up to the shop right now, looking to be rebuilt. I think they're gonna actually look at them tomorrow, start tearing them down and let us know.
Okay.
But when Justin had talked to him, he seemed to think it would be maximum of somewhere around $2,000 to rebuild the three of them.
That's probably not bad for a couple of cylinders.
No, there was 3 of them we brought up there versus the $18,000 that Apollo wanted. And actually, he got them off really fast because I got over there to help him with it, and we got a call, so I took off. And once I cleared the hospital, he's like, "Hey, sorry to ruin all your fun, but it's done already." What?
I don't think they're that bad to get off. It's actually getting them apart, I think, is the problem, right? You need some special.
Yeah, well, they were suspended and
tools
they're
up?
pretty heavy.
Oh, okay.
So that was my concern on him, but yeah, he tore the covers off and took the plumbing off and the pads and got them off within probably an hour. Pretty good. Where is she? Still haven't heard anything back from the estimates from West Shore to do the repairs on all the apparatus.
Mm-hmm.
Justin did call and check with them again today. We received back the panels for the mule that we got from the DNR, from Powder Coat. They look really nice. So
Who'd you use the powder coat?
your guy.
Oh, done right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a super guy.
Yeah, he did a nice job on one of the nicest ones I've seen. So I mean, and that was old stuff. It was just sandblasted.
I know he used to do Ford Motor Company's folks for their off-road trucks. So he's pretty good.
That's fine. Yep. He has the bed partially done. He has the hood on it now, so it's looking a lot better. Hopefully, tomorrow and Friday he'll have that buttoned up. Yeah, there was a solenoid on the 481 that kept on going bad. It was replaced 3 times already by the company who did it, so Justin ordered a larger solenoid. Yeah, and that seems to be working well now. The lights wouldn't turn on or anything, so you'd go on a call and you'd have no lights. You gotta call the other rig.
Everybody just put their arm out the window.
Yeah. Well, the bad thing is that new LED lights, you can't hear them with the old strobes. You'd hear the clicking, didn't know if they were working.
Mhm.
But there's no indicator in the truck to let you know if they're on or not. So if you turn the switch
The
on,
current draws so much
you
less.
just think they're on. I spoke with Kim from Star about the Medicaid, Medicare ground ambulance billing study that,
And what is
We were
it? I
supposed to do.
don't remember hearing what the ground ambulance billing study is.
yeah, it was this big, long, discombobulated survey they wanted you to do to go through all your fleet, all your equipment, your personnel, how many stations you have, how much money you have in the bank, you know, your billing, what your
For
collections are.
the ambulance company?
Yeah,
Why?
Just
so
collect from
they
Medicare.
can equalize, supposedly so they can equalize what they're paying.
Across the board. Make sure some places aren't charging more and they're not, you know.
Oh.
Well,
Yeah, payments are regional. They aren't, what they pay here, they won't pay in Grand Rapids.
You know, I was surprised when
Right.
Lorraine had to go to the hospital in Alpena. It was the local fire company, but they charged me the $200 because they said it was out of network, and I thought, what do you mean out of network? It's the only one in town. But
funny thing you mentioned that as well, we got another study from, HAP. It was a plan, they wanted us to sign up for an in-network provider for them.
you get a
The
deal on
spiel
it,
that
right?
we would be collecting a lower percentage of our billed amount.
Mhm.
And, so I called Kim and I talked to her and she said, no, that's a scam, they just want it. So once you're a member, then they'll pay you less
Mhm.
versus
40
like
cents
how
on the
they
dollar.
presented it. So she's like, don't pay it.
It's like they do when you're an approved bump shop for an insurance company. The reason they do that is they do an hourly rate that's cheaper than anyone else.
Yep, to guarantee you, so did not sign that one. She said that they've collected, she heard that they've collected all the information they needed for their calculations on it, so I'm still waiting for a response from her on that one, but that would be nice, cause that's a
Yeah,
quite a
that's a
study.
wow.
Yeah, it
Like,
was,
Yeah.
they
wow.
verified for it to be like 60 hours of work to fill out to complete the study. And then on the personnel, we have Chase Kalowitz completed his 3rd rides and he'll be picking up shifts now for us, so that'll be a great help, fill some of the voids. We have Sergeant Millar enrolled in the EMS leadership class next month. So hopefully she'll learn some stuff and be able to bring it back to us. Sergeant Burdess and Jacob Jones are now certified American Heart, BLS, ACLS, and PALS instructors, and they're working on scheduling some classes for us.
Does Burdess still work for us quite a bit?
1 day a week.
One day? Okay.
Yeah,
I like him.
yeah, he's a good guy. He helps me a lot. I lean on him a lot. Genesis is starting another grad-funded paramedic class in January, and right now we have firefighter Shane Kruzniak and Dallas Leo signing up to take it.
That's great.
This is just a silly question maybe, but do you have to be a firefighter EMT before you can become a paramedic?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have to be a
There's-
firefighter?
No,
Just EMT?
no, just
right?
EMT, yeah.
Okay.
But it's kind of like in the industry, it all follows together.
Right,
If you're
makes
doing the
more sense.
ambulance, you're kind of like, I want to do the other part too.
If you wanna just work for Star, I guess, or
Yeah,
something.
nobody wants to do that. Sitting in the truck and doing transfers, no, thank you.
Ross put it.
I like that, a spontaneous response. Nobody wants to do that.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, that's your joke for tonight, John.
Sandy's doing well. She is in 1 day a week of therapy now, and
Just because she broke her hip, right?
yeah, she's in pretty high spirits, hoping to come back shortly. NACFA's starting a hybrid EMT class in December, and we have Scotty Alexander signing up for it. It's kind of a cool, they do a lot of it online, so it cuts down the duration of the class. So they just meet 2 weeks, and what is it? It's
2 days a week, and it's from December to March.
Is that this flyer in here?
Yeah, it's a very short class, as most of them go, so. Hopefully we'll get Scotty out of that soon. And then he's already a firefighter, so he would transition. He's been with us for 8 years or better, so he'd be good to transition right into filling shifts. And he's a Oakland County deputy, so. In our community risk reduction, we have Jones has installed 1 smoke detector and 2 smoke detector CO alarms last month. And then we'd like to, I probably need to get with you again, because I know you read the article in the paper before about the lock boxes for the residential houses, so we can get together with that.
You know, if you wanna make a video on it or something, you can have Vinny shoot a video of you talking about those programs.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
fire
that would be
department
great.
run it, cause it hasn't been publicized a lot lately, and I think people would let that, you know, I have the lockbox from the rain, and I think it's great.
Debut video.
I spoke with the Chief Carvel out of Texas. I know we've spoken with him before. He was did a Zoom with us in one of our meetings. He was when he talked to us, he was on a oil rig out there. He does inspections on the best facilities.
Oh, good.
And he's quite knowledgeable. And he called and he was kind of embarrassed that he wasn't really put together, but he impressed all of us. And he wants to come out and in person and have a meeting
So,
with us.
is he saying they have some kind of foam they use now on the best batteries that will actually put the fire out?
Yep, he's waiting to get a battery to test it on.
Well, that's a significant breakthrough if they have that. They could incorporate those in the fire extinguisher systems inside the cabinets, I would think.
Yeah, and he guaranteed us that these systems that are going now are nothing like the ones you see having all the fires and everything. They're so compartmentalized and the fire separations between them, and they're sealed units. So, I mean,
That's the reason as the technology moves, they're gonna make improvements on it.
Yeah,
It's just like buying a car, you know?
yeah, he said every one of them goes in, every one of these incidents, you know, UL goes out and does their study on them, and then they have new ordinance or,
Procedures for them, right?
yeah, and redesign the whole unit. So they are trying to reduce the risk on it, and hopefully by the time that we get something in here, it'll
Well,
be
but they
pretty
could be
low.
2-3 years away, I think, before they even do it. They don't even know what battery they're gonna use.
Yeah.
So I think there's, that's why even if we approved the ordinance at the board and made it effective, they still have to, they being Vesper in this case, still have to go through a whole lot of hoops to make the application.
Yeah. There's so many variables you just don't know right now. And it's so far down the road that so many things are gonna change.
The biggest thing I think they did wrong with that is that they said, you know, at any time if the applicant decides they don't wanna do what you're asking, they can go to the state. Well, it kinda takes, you know, you can sit there and say, well, I think you need to do this for fire suppression instead of that. You could be a year and a half into the process, right? I think that's too much, we're not gonna do it.
Yeah, and just.
And now you're high and dry.
Mhm. But he said he would have one of these units in his backyard, the new ones.
Really?
So,
Well, that's encouraging, so that's somebody that should know, right?
yeah.
I know they talk about the fires, but I don't know anybody that actually has, I'm not aware of any of them that have somebody dying from this, except that early on, that fireman that was standing too close to the box and the hydrogen made it explode,
Well, they
and he got
opened it.
killed, right?
They opened it and introduced it.
Oxygen to it, right?
Yeah, and the new ones are sealed, so
Yeah, so I
there's
said-
no way that's gonna happen.
That's the only one I've ever heard of somebody actually dying.
Mhm. Right. Now, the battery walls and everything in the houses, he said that scares him. He would never do that.
Oh, the freestanding battery storage systems for a house, you mean?
Like the Tesla wall in that are
Or they're
inside the
just
house
not,
or.
like, well enough isolated or something, or?
Yeah.
I think Generac has one of those too, where
Yeah.
batteries
the
in the
generation
house.
Really?
Yeah, he says those are very scary.
Great. That's my son drives. So, quick question. When this Chief Caravel comes to visit, it would be nice to perhaps maybe get him scheduled at a time when we would have a board meeting that evening and he might be able to actually come and talk to the residents.
Yeah, that would be nice. I'd like, you know, to
Yeah.
get all the surrounding communities together.
It just shows you're right on top of the technology then, I think that's a great idea.
Well, and then they could ask him a bunch of questions, and he being the expert, could address their questions as well.
Yeah.
Because, obviously, well, Bob won't be here, Kevin will be, but maybe they know you better than they knew him, and, you know, but, like, I still think, obviously, getting an expert like Chief Carabel, who, you know.
Is that the guy you had suggested originally?
No,
That was the guy
O'Brien.
from Brighton.
Oh.
And we mentioned that to him, and he's very open to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it would be great if he could address the whole community, we give the whole community a chance to get, you know, some questions answered.
Yeah.
Well, it helps if you have an expert that says, I'd be comfortable if this was in my backyard now, they've made such huge steps in improvement.
Mhm.
They can still say, oh, you're lying, it ain't true or something, but I mean, it helps to have that. At some point in time, you have to face reality, I guess.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then
You do a
we-
good job on these agenda items here, John.
Thank you. I just want to kind of like, I know we don't talk much, or I talk to one person, and if they don't relay the information, I just want to know we're working on things, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot
more than we would normally think.
that's in here, but. I spoke with, the Mavis group. I don't know if you guys know what a box alarm card is.
Yeah.
Okay. We're currently in the process, just as I came in, they're starting to update all the box cards.
Oh.
And the group brought in this HIEBA. They're a box alarm software program that's supposed to link up with your dispatch.
Oh, to automate the process?
Because the one we have now is also discombobulated. It doesn't, it's a separate system they go into, and then they have to go and geocode it in Google and go back into another system and pull up the box card manually, so nothing flows through like it's supposed to. And this system was supposed to do that. It does with every other dispatch center, but since we have Clemis, because Oakland County has to be an individual, and Clemis is created and maintained by Oakland County, that it won't work with that system. Unfortunately. That we only found that out Coheed.
Perhaps with their new higher rates for dispatch, they'll eventually fix that.
Yeah, right, it's a big point of contention within.
Be careful, it'll be our next millage.
Yes.
Yeah,
For 20 years.
well, they already just raised the dispatch fee on us,
Yeah.
7%, which is pretty considerable. EMS, we still haven't had any issues with
IV.
getting IV fluids because of the Baxter plant down south that is out of service. BD Medical has launched their own version of the IO drills and needles. I don't know if you guys, the interosseous, it's where you drill a needle into the bone and you can administer fluids and meds through that. The one we have now, we had, actually, it doesn't really hurt until you start flowing the fluid. It only hurts for a second.
Yeah.
But you've watched many videos of people getting them, you know, that are conscious, and it's no worse than getting an IV. It's the pressure, there's a membrane around the bone. Once you start flowing the fluid, it kind of expands, and that's where you get the pain from. So if you break your bone or something, because there's no nerves in it per se. But yeah, they started these new drills. They're kind of manufactured backwards from the ones we have now. The needle attachment to the drill itself. But these new drills, they're doing a one-to-one exchange. So we just give them our drill,
and they give you a new one.
They give us their drill, and the new ones are rechargeable.
Oh.
And we can do maintenance on them versus the other ones. There's no indicator on the battery life or status of them. You can just be using it in the middle and it'll just die and you wouldn't know it.
Well, that sounds like a really good deal.
And, yeah, with the Easy IO, with the what are the needles, $185.
They're not fishing for anything.
Yeah. The needles are $185 on the Easy IO unless you bought a case of them, and then they went down to $135. So it's not like we do them that often. So you'll have 4 or 5 of these $135 needles that expire on the shelf before we can get to use them.
Oh.
So there's big waste there. With this new system, they guarantee to have a replacement to us within 24 hours. So we don't have to have the stock
Okay.
and lose it all to expiration.
I mean,
Oh,
if you
that's
put
a-
one in every rig, you really have 2 you run, so you've got a backup. If one's
Yeah.
gone, we wait a day
Before
for
you
the next
flip-
one to come in, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Before you flip the page, go back up to, congratulations Ethan Ogans,
Wait, which
for,
one?
you skipped that one.
You
Yeah, he
skipped
tested out his
G, H,
paramedic class.
GH and I
Yeah.
at the top.
Oh yeah, his class.
Yeah.
He was in there today, and I forgot to ask him
When his testing.
when his state testing was. It'd be nice to get that
Mhm.
for him. He's been working on it a long time. Operations is the garage doors at Station 2. It's a constant battle. Like we talked to Gina a little bit about it. There's 11 of them over there.
Yeah.
So it's just been kind of cobbling them together for the last couple of years. I think it was 5 years ago we replaced all the openers at Station 1 because they were just worn out. And
Is it
it's-
the weight of, no, that would be the springs, the weight of the door.
right,
Or is
it
it the
doesn't do.
motor on the opener?
There's the motor on it. It's exactly the same thing as a residential door, just
Just
kind
a
of
heavier
larger
motor,
scale.
right?
Yeah, but they're 20-some years old and going up and down. But unfortunately with those ones, it's not really the motor that's going bad on them. There's an internal switch in there that tells it whether to go forwards or backwards, and the contacts are fusing together. So sometimes it will unstick, and sometimes it'll stay stuck. So when it gives it the other signal to go the other way,
Yeah, no, once in a while my door will stick part way up, so I've gone to looking through the sunroof before I back out, so I don't take the door with me.
So I sent that out, and Jim actually responded back that tried doors at Pontiac, which historically when we used them, they've been more expensive, but I will get a quote from them. To me, kind of happy. Yeah, Station 2 backup generator continues to be inoperable. PM Technologies was out that Jim recommended, and they gave us a quote of $940 to replace some EGO sensors. I don't know exactly what they do, but the tech was great, and he explained the whole thing. He hooked up his computer and ran through everything more than I've ever seen another one do. And the last one we got from Cummings was $4,500 to replace to APR valves.
Use that
So-
next on the station, a backup regulator is $2,500. Holy shit. Be one hell of a regulator.
Which one is that?
The next one, C.
He's ahead of you.
He's ahead.
Oh, Station 1. Yeah, the voltage regulator. Yeah, I don't know exactly what that part is. I tried to find it on that one, but it's such an old unit. It's not easy to pull anything up for it. You kind of have to find.
It's just, yeah, I'll bet you, cause isn't that an old Ford inline 6 or
Yep.
something? Yeah, see that? That's one of those where they're telling that, but I bet you if you can find a guy that knows that motor, you know, he'll say, oh, that comes off of a 38 Studebaker, and they're $4 if you know where to get them, you know?
Yeah,
It's
that
that kind
motor
of thing.
Is amazing. That thing will run forever, but
Yeah,
it's the other part.
they're not stressed.
No, not at all. So I haven't given them the okay to do that.
Out of
Still-
curiosity, I don't know if this helps, but I've had a problem sometimes getting something like a regulator. And you take the old one over to Mazda on M15. and a lot of times they match them up, and they got a bunch of old stuff there because they're always fixing somebody's tractor or generator or something. And all that stuff's they didn't make a voltage regulator just for that generator. I'm sure it came off of.
Right.
I find out it came off of a 48 Ford or something.
I know you guys had a problem getting a hold of us for a couple days. We found out that it was their Ethernet jack on the back of the router unit was broken, so it wasn't making contact, and Jeff had found that and had replaced the plug on it.
That's not one I've tried, but okay.
Dob says he's still been, sorry, working on the website. I haven't seen it yet, but he wants to show it probably at the end of the week, just what he has worked out. I know you guys have talked about putting it on your server, and I think that'd be good, as long as we still had access to it.
Well, you can have your own private access. I'm just more worried about the liability and the coverage, like the ransom and again, just the coverage of all the
Yeah, because that
cyber
has
stuff.
happened to us with the
Yes.
GrovelandFire.org one.
Yeah.
I think that was the original intention of merging them,
Mhm.
because we had a little bit more security.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Probably a good idea, yeah.
But once you get to that, you guys can have your own little link that no one else can access, but, because it's for you, from what Sean described, you're gonna be able to control CEUs and things like that with it, so.
Yeah, perfect.
So was that decided that you will have a separate website? Is that what the board decided last month?
No, that they can have a link so that they can do their fire things, but the public will also have a link that's off of ours that gives all of the services that they render to the public. And, burn permits, I guess, was the number one.
Yeah.
Because where were they saying people were paying for burn permits?
Illinois.
And where?
In Illinois, Groveland Township.
They probably, I think they made quite a good amount.
I'm sure.
I had a lady in today that said, "Oh, I just paid this, but I didn't get it confirmed." And I was like, "You don't pay for burn permits." And she was like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, you might want to see if you can get that reversed."
Well, in the future, if you want to receive, send those requests to Laura.
Sure.
Plus, because they were gonna need to be able to access it on a more regular basis for what they need to do for upkeep, and it's not practical to have, our, person who does ours do all theirs.
It's not.
They could have had that access. I did talk to Sean about that about 2 months ago, for him having his own access on his site.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, this is sounding like
No.
grovelandfire.org,
Yeah.
not part of grovelandmi.gov.
Yes.
That's our new site, is grovelandmi.gov. Same site, different name.
By the way, GovDocs is working well. I have been getting alerts. Even when you updated today, I got a second,
God delivered.
That's
delivery.
Yeah.
that was me.
That was you?
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
So I don't think that I don't know how to answer your question.
No, that's okay. I think I'm not understanding the big picture there, but that's all right.
There will be a Groveland Fire link on our server, and then they will have a link for just firefighters.
So there will be a link.
Well, there will be,
To
their
their
stuff will be
webpage?
on, no, their stuff will be on Groveland Township, and the link to .org will be for them only. That won't be for the public.
Okay. That is just your personnel. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, because I know how it works, not so much.
Fair enough.
She'll tell us in
yeah.
a couple of weeks, or
Okay.
at the end of the week.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll get more from Sean. He was supposed to be here, but I chumped him with a call, so I could be here. And then we
Okay.
got another one.
So more info coming on that one.
Yeah. Last week they had a Zoom meeting with Sonatrol. I wasn't able to attend because I was on another call, so I had Jeff sit in on it, and with Jim, and I think they got most of everything hammered out on it.
She's asked for a presentation, and I've told her it's Jim's project, and then I got a message from Jim that he couldn't be here tonight. I think he had to go to Illinois or something. But I don't wanna have her make the pitch and him not be here, because he's the one that interfaced with her first, and that's how she got to you. From Sonatrol,
Through Jim.
through Jim.
Right, she just called me it was like a month and a half ago and asked me a couple questions, and then they all had a Zoom meeting last week.
Oh, okay, I wasn't
And
on
I
that,
wasn't able
but I
to-
was on the original meeting out at the station, we said, you gotta talk to John. I'm
Mhm.
sure he knows what he needs, not us.
Yeah, but it sounds like they kind of have a general idea of everything that we need in the package.
And the state's supposed to be putting their cameras in on the wiring we're doing for the MSP part of the building.
Oh, they're supplying all their own system?
Well, that's what I got notes that I saved, old chicken scratch notes that said, yeah, we put our own stuff in, we got a guy that does that, you just put the wire in for us. So, and she's done something with the state police before, so maybe she could be the contractor for them, I don't know. That has to get ironed out. I was more interested in making sure she got whatever you needed for the various doors and that, so that if your guys come and go, you had whatever info you need on it, that's all.
Yeah, Jeff was happy, he said that he's got a price, or she's working up a quote for all the doors and the cameras that we need.
I think she has that, because she wanted to give it to me, and I said, don't give it to me, you need to get Jim here, and he's the one who just sent a note that he can't be here, so. You're just gonna have to do it twice if you do it that way. Just so you know, that's where it is.
Okay.
Well, and Laura offered to get a third quote,
But I'm waiting for,
what we want, what we're looking for.
and the election's finally over, so now
Sure,
it's
so now-
definitely,
okay, and I do believe that in past minutes, we'll be able to find what we were saying we wanted based on what we have now and what we were looking for. So I'll help you search that.
For a vendor?
Yes, for a vendor.
Okay. Matt Weil from NACFA sent me an email today for the guys that they use over there, and he's extremely happy with them.
Okay,
So I can forward that to you.
that'd be great.
That would
Thank you.
be great.
That'd be excellent.
definitely.
Okay.
Yay. That would get us
Yeah, I would
started.
really like to get a camera on the box.
Nice.
The alarms. So for the month of October, we ran 93 calls. This year and previous year, we ran 87. It was probably mainly the increase in calls on 75. I didn't really do a total breakdown, but they were up significantly.
Because of the construction on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
That's probably gonna
Also-
be that way next year too, right? But somebody told me.
I think
they were
it's gonna
putting
be
it off
worse
for a
next
whole
year.
Didn't they? Somebody I thought told me they decided to put that construction off for a whole year. I hadn't heard that, but somebody said.
yeah, I
that.
haven't heard that either.
Okay, I didn't think so either.
But
That
I
just make
think-
it even worse.
I think when they shut down the southbound lanes of it, it's gonna make Dixie a lot worse, cause
Yeah.
there's a lot more traffic that flows
So,
southbound than northbound in the morning when the sun's in your eyes.
we're pretty sure MDOT's figured out how to snag traffic as bad as you possibly can along that 14-mile stretch.
Yeah. And then we did have a residential house fire on 10/29. It was called out for heavy smoke in the house, actually, that it was Kevin's friends, and they just sat down to eat dinner, and they said they just smelt the smoke, opened up the basement door, and
Humidifier.
it was like a wall of smoke. Yeah, the humidifier caught on fire, and he'd actually taken some towels and soaking them and threw it on there. You know, it's not really advisable, but if it would have went, he would have been a lot more damage than there was. So sometimes not doing the right thing's the right thing. I would never
If only
say
you
that.
knew it in dance, right?
Yeah. And Rotten Manor's closed now. Man, it went off without a hitch. They did a really good job on doing their fire watches, filled out all the forms, and they have it back into us now.
Do you go back out for their December little gig?
Oh, the haunted Santa?
Actually, we haven't.
He private contracts.
Yeah, Teddy. So,
And that's just in that one building, isn't it?
yeah.
It's just the one haunted house where Santa sits, right?
Yeah, and actually the same guy who's doing it out there now that was doing it in-house, so he's one of our firefighters. Yeah, so he originally started working for Wally doing security, cause he's a county dep as well. And it just easier for him to do both of them at the same time. And
Well, one-stop service, he can be the medic, he can arrest them, and he can
Yeah, I know,
be a haunted
right?
Santa all in one day. Scare
Actually-
the Jesus out of you, I'll resuscitate your heart, and I'll lock you up if you give me any static over it.
We had a hometown heroes in Ortonville. Did you have anything to do with that?
I did not.
Did the TSC? Yeah, I think it was very poorly organized. We had Sergeant Adderholt, Angie Adderholt, and Teddy Reidner go out there with the ladder and the brush truck. Brandon was there. And the county dep didn't show up, and there was no people, so unfortunately, he didn't do a very good job organizing it and advertising it. But they did have a few people through there, a bunch of kids that came up through there. So.
They should have coordinated that with the, trick or treat trail that was out at the Brandon Township Park, cause they had like 350 kids go through that.
Oh, really?
Yep, yep.
See, we always do it at Beaky's, and I thought it was the same guy, just at a different location. Because the Beaky's one always has a really good turnout.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was the manager of TSC wanted to do his own thing.
Oh. Well.
Then we're doing Thanksgiving again. The flyer's in the packet if you know anybody, or could put it out for us, for anybody that needs a meal on Thanksgiving.
I'm just curious, didn't Vesper offer to pay for some of that and give you guys
They
some money?
did, but
They're not inclined to do so now?
I don't know if it's something that I want to accept.
Okay. Okay.
Bribe money?
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah, that'll be
what
the
I was
headlines,
afraid
right?
of.
That's right.
Fire chief accepts heavy bribe for Thanksgiving. Bah humbug, says Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yeah, best to avoid that.
And then Thursday, November 21st, Holly High School is having a mental health resource fair. And they have a bunch of organizations there. And there's a flyer in here for it. Probably go. Been trying to compile a book to have resources for the elderly and mental needs that we can have to offer. Because so many of our calls are repeat. People that need assistance, that these organizations could really help them. There is nothing else for me.
Okay, thank you, John. Did a nice job on it again.
Thank you.
There are no other questions or comments from the board.
Public comment.
Yeah, any public comment?
There
Kevin,
is one
Dave?
thing I was gonna tell you, back when we were doing monies and I forgot to mention it. There's about a $40,000
Oh, yeah.
withdrawal that's gonna come out of your account that was paid by township. It should have come out of fire. It's for your workers' comp accident fund monies.
Okay, but it'll come out of that one.
Yes, it's
So-
budgeted for and everything, but just so you
Okay.
know that will be moved over to you. You can have that. So, I just meant to say that earlier.
Yeah, let me know when you're planning to do that,
Yeah.
because I'll have to move some money around. Okay.
That's all I have, but I meant to say that earlier.
That was your public comment?
That's my public comment.
Motion is in order. You want to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're done. Thank you, everybody.
All right.